Right, good afternoon. I'll kickstart very quickly to introduce the agenda for this afternoon. It's quite busy. With Graham, we're going to give a quick address, followed by the DFT with Jenny, then the CAA will be with us. Then we'll have a break. We'll start again at 3:30, and in the afternoon we'll have a bit of a reshuffle of the agenda. We'll start actually with mobile networks with BT, and then we'll move on with Rowley on OSE success stories. Now, unfortunately, Rowley hurt pretty badly his back, so he will be online, but it should work. We tested it. It should be working okay. And then we'll have a members panel from with three of our members who are part of the audience. And finally, last but not least, very important, Alex will brief us on the BVLOS-SIG, the risk quantification that he's been very active and supportive of. We'll try and be as quickly as possible, as fast as possible. You know who you are. We are essentially among members. Just to let you know that our community of followers is in the order of the 5,000 on social media. Also, as mentioned this morning, we use social media to promote and disseminate information rather than necessarily a media for how shall I say, more non-constructive voices, let's put it this way. So we strive to be the collective voice for the drone industry, and new members are actually very representative of the entire ecosystem. Our priorities, we are a slim organization, and we focus on 3 priorities, same as last year. Number 1 is proportionate regulation and standards for the business here and now. The second is education and the acceleration of the safe and professional adoption of drones by end-user industry, so essentially growing the end market. And the third priority is looking at the future, enabling the future, and embracing future-facing issues. So what have we been up to following our 3 priorities? In 2023, we set up at the very beginning of the year the Regulation Special Interest Group, if you can remember that action from last year. We actually responded to 6 formal consultations by either the CAA or the DFT. We've also set up a number of webinars on regulation, and we've started this year the journey with BSI in terms of contributing to their working groups, and also asking some of you members to actually join the BSI working group so that they get access to the technical knowledge directly and not just through us. We are actually quite busy representing the industry at various committees. Graham, would you like to comment on it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's quite a lot on the list there, and these are just sort of groups that we collectively participate in, or where we have meetings or what have you. I mean, there's a few that are new. The Aviation Council is the highest level of governance for aviation in the UK. It's I think chaired by the Aviation Minister, and we're now represented on that through Mark Bailey via the GA for Biz contact I talked about. We're on the future of flight activity. There's an airspace modernisation stakeholder group which has been added in, and we're on that. So basically there's a lot going on, and one of the things that I'd say to everybody is, if there are issues you want to raise or issues that you want to you just need to ask us. And the other side is, these are all collaborative ventures for us. We don't always agree with everything, but we basically need to work together to try and make things happen. The thing that's going to be talked about next is the Future of Flight Industry Group Action Plan, and that probably took 12 months from the first meeting of the Future of Flight Group to the publication. I think the first meeting was the 8th of March last year, and the publication was the 18th of March this year. And it wasn't all plain sailing, particularly around dates, as you'll sort of see from some of the discussions when we get to the CAA piece. But, you know, this was really in answer to the question, you know, who do you engage with? What do you do? I'm pleased to say that we've got, you know, people in the room from ACOG and what have you, even though they're sort of on holiday. So I didn't want to embarrass you, Tony. So, you know, I'm quite pleased with that level of engagement and hopefully that level of trust that we've managed to build with those organisations over the period.
Now, you know, what do we support? Often people ask us, well, what are your positions ARPAS? So we put on on this slide some of the key messages that we would like to convey back to our members. You know, we're in favour of atypical air environment because we consider that it's a great step forward to enabling BVLOS. It's not perfect, but actually it will really make us move from essentially what's available today. It's a kind of at scale is VLOS. So we'll move one step forward with BVLOS in atypical air environment. And then I've put here a number of points that are essentially around standardization, productization, moving from a project base to a product base. So by that, for example, in terms of operational approval, we know that SORA is coming up. SORA is essentially a location-specific activity. So we want to promote generic SORAs or new PDRAs, whatever the vocabulary will be for that one, to enable more activities and scenarios at scale. So we mentioned some of them. Standards also in terms of the product technical requirements. For now, there are none really, and we know that there is a limit to what we can achieve in terms of more complex operations if there are not requirements on the products themselves. So we're clearly in favor of those. Beyond, we are also in favor of electronic conspicuity in mandatory zone. And to be honest, Rupert is in the room. He promoted ARPA's position on the mandate that was given maybe a couple of years ago, already back in those days. And we're also in favor, of course, of a more remote pilot competency beyond the pure GVC as we grow and allow more complex operations. So actually on this list, I don't think that the CAA would disagree with any of those. I think the roadmap is somehow shared by many players within the industry and I think internationally. So the point is get it done. That's really, I think, the point about it, as opposed to diverging on what needs to be done. The other point we'd like to mention is we've also advocated for more resources at the CAA. We know that they've been much more on their plate over the last years, especially since shifting out of EASA. So clearly, we systematically promote more skills and resources at the CAA, and clear, consistent, proportionate regulation for the drone industry. We know that a very large portion of our community is not with an aviation background. And so we do need to address the community in a different manner, with a different hat, not coming from a crewed aviation, but from a drone background. And the final word is, of course, engagement with the community.
Thank you. So this next bit is the second one of the sort of the key actions, which is really about using education to accelerate the safe and professional adoption of drones by industry. And that's looking at trying to build the use case and industry promotion activities. So as I say, I repeat, you will be getting asked for any quantified use cases you've got. In terms of then trying to, we've just done a project with a Juno, and Gordon Baker just arrived. I can't spot him in the audience, but oh, hi, Gordon. He did something, he sponsored that Project Ease that we did with a Juno And we had the first meeting or workshop earlier this week, Tuesday. DroneX and GeoBusiness. GeoBusiness has created a drone theatre this year. So there's more focus on drones there. And in November, there's an event that's been running 4 or 5 years. It's so far only been run in Europe. It's called Aerial Cities, and in November it's coming to London. So they've acknowledged that there's a lot going on here. So there will be speaking opportunities there. And that's aimed at sort of government users basically across the world. They get a pretty big audience, and we're on the advisory group for that. Education, we've mentioned some of the webinars news feed and 400 jobs. The job thing that we look out for jobs being advertised, and that is definitely going up, which is hopefully a sign of the health. And then we did a mentoring project with a firm called Brightside, trying to sort of get into the youth community, and we really just back them up. And then on local government, there is a project called AAM for Gov. Where's Phil and Greg at the back there? So that's a website with video training aimed at local government employees. And the policy paper with the NPCC, which is talking about, that's due for, well, we finalized it about a week ago, didn't we, Simon? And that's sort of coming out. And then we were also engaged with a thing called the Drone Audit Working Group, which has changed its name, but that was really to do with, what approach should be taken to people who are they're basically flying close to buildings and police stations and trying to get an embarrassing video they can post on YouTube. And the impact of that, if anybody wants to know, I mean, it really does have a big impact on the people who are videoed and then ridiculed. This is a slide, Keith, you may recognize. I took this out of a presentation that Keith, so we've got SASIG, the chair of SASIG over there. That's the Strategic Aviation Special Interest Group of the Local Government Association. And this was one of a whole presentation that he did to the Westminster Forum a few months back. I only use it on the basis that it tells you that local government are thinking about what they should be using drones for and trying to sort of push and promote some of that activity. And we're trying to work together on that activity. These are a selection. Do you want to talk about these, Elena?
Thank you. So we've got some great logos up here. These are some of the companies that have been involved in giving our webinars and our CPDs this year. They've been absolutely fantastic. They give up their time and it's brilliant. We've covered some fantastic topics. There are more to come. Graham, what's next? More to come. We have Consultic talking about what is an accountable manager and why your organisation needs one. Slink Tech on revolutionising drone infrastructure coming up, as well as Rover on offshore wind turbine inspections. We've got Safety Culture via Ebony, practical business advice. You're all fantastic at flying and what you do, but sometimes you need a little bit of help with the business end of running a business via your business community. And then while we are a commercial drone operating company side of things, we do appreciate that some of our members link into the defence and security side of things. So we have a webinar towards the end of June with the Ministry of Defence with their procurement side of things, who will be talking about how SMEs can engage with the MOD on projects. As just a start for this year, if you would like to be involved or if there are topics you would like to see covered, please let us know and we can arrange. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the challenge. So if you want to be giving one or there's a topic you'd like to see covered, we can only do it if you put your hand up and let us know. Okay, one of the other things, so in terms of education, I think education is really important in terms of the more we can educate end users and the more we can educate the communities, then it's a good way of actually explaining to people what drones do and this, that, and the other. I'm not going to spend any time on this. We've been working with it with a guy called Dave Godber. And, you know, we're trying to pull together a strategy that goes everywhere from schools through further education, higher education and industry. And the industry piece, we've been working for some time with ECITB, which is the Engineering Construction Industry Training Board. And the reason we did that was with that comes funding, because they levy industries and then they, and the other piece that I got to mention is the apprenticeships. I touched on it earlier, but we're working on that with iProServe to get a apprentice trailblazer with the IFATE and the Department of Education. And I'll refrain from commenting further on that. I only put this slide in to say there are other people other than PwC, Craig, who's in the room, but you know, all of the numbers, whether you believe 45 billion or this or that, they're all going up. So, you know, there is still massive opportunity, and it's down to us to try and help realize some of that. So quickly on use cases, you know, we're not going to stop. There's lots of industries, and we can only do that with help from you in the room to help us sort of pull those together. Just something that keep your eye out for. This is the quick mention, Hugh, in terms of there are some summaries being put together on different areas for use cases, and they'll be published what in the next month or ish.
Yeah, next month.
And then Mohammed, who most of you met earlier, is pulling together some, you know, some examples there, which focuses in on a particular use case, the financial benefit, the other benefits in a standard format, so that people can pick them up and they know what they're looking for if they're looking for what the problem was or what have you. Make no apologies for this. This is a slide I stole, borrowed, whatever, from Ericsson. They do over 1,000 tower inspections a month. And they've been trying to move that from somebody hanging on a rope to using drones. And I just like the pictorial view of this, which is climbing is here. And, you know, you've got all the health and safety guidelines and what have you, but the only real way of avoiding falls from height is to substitute that and use a drone and put the drone up and leave the person on the ground. And this is another piece of the messages we've got to give to industry has got to involve, in my view, the health and safety aspects, because if you've worked in industry, health and safety scares you a lot more, apologies guys, than the CAA, because, you know, they lock the CEO up and what have you if he didn't do the right things in terms of trying to avoid incidents. Fundamental, the first point. And then enabling the future, you're going to hear shortly from Jenny. The Airspace Modernisation Stakeholders Group is there. The BVLOS Special Interest Group you're going to hear about. The BVLOS Risk Quantification you're going to hear about from Alex. The BVLOS Forum, 8 webinars on future representative stuff, and really trying to join as many groups as we can in terms of driving that forwards, and a particular focus on trying to understand and influence local government, which we, in the meeting the other day, we basically came away with the conclusion is it's quite hard. So that's all for us. And I'm very pleased now to introduce the next speaker. I'm just going to give you, it's about the Future of Flight Action Plan. A couple of important points, though. It was countersigned or co-signed by industry and Anthony Brown, the new aviation minister, on behalf of the future of flight. And it's about an intent. It's got 2 sections of it, and I was very pleased that there was a specific focus on UAS that came out of the discussions over the past 12 months, because they are two sort of slightly different timeframes and slightly different issues. And this is sort of page 2, I think, or section 2, creating commercial opportunities and benefiting society and the consumer are 2 themes. So I'd like to, without further ado, welcome Jenny up to the stage. Thank you.